There are nights that change everything. Nights where a single sentence shatters years of silence, of guarded dignity. That December night, in front of everyone, my son asked me with a cruel smile, "How does it feel to be completely useless, Mom?" I smiled back, and I replied with something he never imagined I would say. "It feels like never having to pay your rent again." His face turned pale. My daughter-in-law, Tiffany, choked on her wine and yelled, "What rent? What rent are you talking about?" My name is Rebecca Miller. I'm 59 years old. I'm a retired teacher, a widow for 12 years now, and the mother of an only son whom I loved more than my own life. For 6 years, I silently paid the rent for the apartment where my son lived with his wife. 6 years, keeping a secret that he had asked, begged, and pleaded with me to keep. And that night, in front of Tiffany's family, in front of her parents from Manhattan's Upper East Side, in front of her elegant sisters and their glasses of expensive wine, that secret tumbled out of my mouth like a sigh of freedom. But to understand that night, I must go back 6 years. It all started when Robert told me he had met someone special. Tiffany was her name. She came from a well-off family from the Upper East Side with that security that inherited money provides and last names that open doors. I lived in a modest house in Brooklyn, the same one where I raised Robert alone after his father died of a sudden heart attack when my son was only 8 years old. Robert worked as an engineer at a mid-sized firm. He earned a good salary, but not as much as he led Tiffany to believe. I knew it from the start. A mother always knows when her son is building a lie. The first time Tiffany came to dinner at my house, I noticed how she looked at my antique furniture, my embroidered floral curtains, and the china I inherited from my grandmother. She didn't say anything, but her eyes said it all. Robert, my son, did not defend her. He didn't defend me either. He just smiled nervously and changed the subject. I should have seen it then, that first crack. But a mother always wants to believe that her son is better than he shows. A month before the wedding, Robert came to my house one Sunday afternoon. He had that look that I had known since he was a child, the look of someone who is about to ask for something big. He sat with me on the patio where we always had coffee together, under the purple wisteria that I planted when he was born. "Mom," he said without looking me in the eyes, "I need to ask you for something." "Tell me, son." "Tiffany and I are going to rent an apartment in Chelsea. It's nice. It has 2 bedrooms, a balcony. She's used to a certain level, and I earn well, but not as much as her family thinks." My heart already knew what was coming. "How much is the rent?" I asked. $3,000 a month. I almost choked on my coffee. "Robert, that's more than I make on my pension." "I know, Mom, I know, but listen to me." He came closer, took my hands. "I can pay $2,000. I just need you to help me with $1,000 every month just until I get a better job. I promise you it's temporary." "And why don't you look for something more affordable?" "Because Tiffany already told her parents that we're living there. She's already shown them pictures. If we move to something cheaper, they'll know I don't earn what I told them. Please, Mom, just 1 year. I swear to you." That afternoon, under the wisteria, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I said yes, but there was one condition that Robert imposed on me. "Tiffany can't know you're helping me. Please, she would think I'm a failure. She has to believe that I pay for everything myself." And so began my silence. Every first of the month, I would transfer $1,000 to Robert's account. $1,000 that came out of my teacher's pension, from my saved earnings, from the money I had planned to use to fix my house, for my medication, to live out my last years with dignity.
1 year, he had told me. Just 1 year. But 1 year turned into 2, 2 into 3, and when we reached 6 years, I no longer had any savings. I had nothing left to give. Sometimes we trust too much in the wrong people. Have you also been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. Before everything broke, there were beautiful years. Years when being a mother was my greatest pride. I remember when Robert was 7 years old and would wake me up on Sundays with a glass of orange juice that he had squeezed himself. He would spill half of it on the way, but he would arrive at my bed with that crooked tooth smile and say, "For you, Mommy, because you're the best in the world." I remember the afternoons of homework at the kitchen table, his head bent over his notebooks, the smell of chili on the stove, the golden light of the sunset streaming through the window. He would ask me things about the universe, about the planets, about why people die, and I would answer with the wisdom I had, with the infinite love that only a single mother can give. When his father died, Robert was 8 years old. That night after the wake, he didn't cry. He sat with me on the patio under the wisteria that was just beginning to grow and told me, "Don't worry, Mom. Now I'm going to take care of you." And for years that was the case. Robert was my companion, my reason to get up every morning, my life project. I worked double shifts as a teacher so he could go to a good school. I mended his clothes when necessary. I prepared his lunches with love. I took him by bus to his English classes, even if I had to cross the whole city. I never complained. I never felt it was a sacrifice. It was pure love. When he entered college, I cried with pride. When he graduated as an engineer, I invited all my teacher friends to the ceremony. Robert went up to the stage, received his diploma, and from his spot, he looked for me with his eyes. He smiled. I did too. And at that moment, I felt that everything had been worth it. "Thank you, Mom," he told me that night, while we were having barbecue pulled pork in my kitchen. "Without you, I would be nothing." I kept those words in my heart like a treasure. The first years after his graduation were good. Robert got better and better jobs. He visited me on Sundays. We would have coffee together under the wisteria, which had grown so much it shaded the entire patio. He would tell me about his projects, his bosses, his dreams, and I would listen with that attention that only a mother can give. He never asked me for money. He never needed anything. He was an independent, hard-working, honorable man, or so I thought. When he met Tiffany, at first I was happy. It was time for him to settle down. I thought Robert was 32 years old. I was already dreaming of grandchildren, of a daughter-in-law to join me at family gatherings, of Sundays filled with children's laughter. But from the first dinner, something went wrong. Tiffany arrived dressed in expensive clothes, smelling of French perfume, with perfect nails and salon hair. She was pretty, I won't deny it, but there was something in her gaze that made me uncomfortable. A hardness, a way of evaluating everything, as if she were putting a price on my house, my furniture, my life. "Your house is so cute, Mrs. Miller," she said to me, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It's very authentic." Authentic. That word hit me like a rock. Robert didn't notice the poison, or he didn't want to notice it. During dinner, he only talked about Tiffany, her job in public relations, her successful family, her refined taste. I nodded, smiled, served more iced tea, but inside, something hurt. That night, when Tiffany left, Robert stayed with me for a while. We washed the dishes together, as we always had. "What did you think of her?" he asked me, excited. "She's very pretty," I said, choosing my words carefully. "But—" "No but, Zun. If you're happy, I'm happy." He hugged me and I closed my eyes, wishing it were true. The following weeks, Robert began to change. Small changes that only a mother notices. He stopped showing up in a regular shirt and started wearing designer clothes. He switched his phone for a more expensive one. He told me he had started going to restaurants in the Upper East Side, to bars in Greenwich Village, to places where Tiffany's people gathered. "Isn't all that very expensive?" I asked him one afternoon. "I'm fine, Mom. I earn enough." But I knew his numbers. I knew his salary. And I knew it wasn't enough for that lifestyle. A month later, he announced they were getting married. And a month after that came that Sunday afternoon. The afternoon where he asked me for help with the rent. The afternoon where, under the wisteria, I agreed to keep his secret.
While I'm telling all this, I wonder where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. The first year of payments was difficult, but I bore it with dignity. Every first of the month, I transferred my $1,000 to Robert's account. I adjusted my budget. I stopped buying meat often. I started repairing my clothes instead of buying new ones. I canceled my membership to the seniors' gym that I liked so much. But everything was fine, I told myself. It was for my son. It was temporary. Robert called me every week. "How are you, Mom?" "Fine, son. Very well." We never mentioned the money. He had made it very clear that this was our secret, our pact of silence. His visits became more spread out. He no longer came on Sundays. Tiffany always had plans: brunch with her friends, dinners with clients, family events. I understood. A couple needs their space. Or at least, that's what I told myself. The first real crack came on Mother's Day of that first year. I had prepared my famous turkey chili since the day before. The chili that Robert had loved since he was a child. The one that took me hours to make, grinding each ingredient with patience. I set the table with my best tablecloth, the embroidered one my own mother had made. I bought fresh flowers from the market. I waited. Robert had confirmed by text. "We'll be there, Mom, at 2. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the table was ready. At 3, the chili was starting to cool. At 4, I started to worry. At 5, my phone rang. "Mom, I'm sorry. Tiffany organized a lunch with her family and didn't tell me. She committed us, and I can't say no. But I'll make it up to you next week, okay? I love you." He hung up before I could answer. I sat alone at my table, in front of the chili that no one would eat, under the wisteria that was already full of purple flowers. And for the first time in a long time, I cried. I didn't cry because of the food. I cried because I understood something I didn't want to accept. I had ceased to be a priority in my son's life. I put the chili in the refrigerator. I ate it alone all week. Every bite tasted like sadness. Robert came the following week with flowers and chocolates. "Forgive me, Mom. You know how Tiffany is with her family." He hugged me, and I, as always, forgave him. But something had changed inside me. A small crack. The months passed. The year he had promised me was up. One afternoon, I gathered the courage and called him. "Robert, son? A year has passed." "A year of what, Mom?" "The rent. You told me it would only be 1 year." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Mom, are you okay? You know things are tough right now. I just paid Tiffany's tuition for her advanced certificate. Give me a few more months, okay? I promise I won't need your help soon." "Robert, I have expenses too. My house needs repairs. The water heater is leaking. Mom, please don't make me feel bad. I'm under enough pressure as it is." And he hung up. I stayed looking at the phone, feeling like something very big had just broken, but I kept paying. Because he was my son. Because a mother doesn't abandon. Because I still believed things would get better. The second year passed just like the first. Fewer visits, more excuses, more silence. By the third year, Robert barely came to my house. When I suggested visiting them, there was always a reason. They were remodeling, Tiffany had a migraine, they had dinner with friends. Once I dared to show up unannounced. I knocked on the door of their apartment in Chelsea. That apartment I was helping to pay for. Tiffany opened it, wearing a silk robe and holding a glass of wine. "Oh, mother-in-law, what a surprise." Her tone didn't sound surprised, it sounded annoyed. "I was just passing by and wanted to say hi." "Robert isn't here. He went out with his friends." "She didn't invite me in." "I can wait for him if it's not a bother." "Well, I have friends coming over. Another day is better." "Okay." And she closed the door. I stood in the hallway of that elegant building with my bag of bagels that I had brought for them, feeling like I had just been expelled from my own son's life. I walked to the bus stop, crying on the inside, with my head held up on the outside. That night, Robert sent me a text. Mom, Tiffany told me you stopped by. Please let me know beforehand. She felt uncomfortable. She felt uncomfortable. And me? Nobody asked how I felt. I didn't reply to the message. The next day, I made the month's transfer. $1,000 as always. Because despite everything, despite the pain, despite the humiliation, he was still my son, and I was still his mother, even if he was forgetting what that meant. There is a difference between being generous and being foolish. For a long time, I thought I was being generous, but the truth is, I was being foolish. And the worst of all, I knew it, but I didn't want to accept it. The fourth year of payments was when I started to feel the real weight of my decision, not just in my bank account, but in my body. My knees started to hurt more. The doctor recommended a physical therapy treatment that my insurance didn't fully cover. I needed to pay $200 a month for the sessions. I didn't have $200 extra. I canceled the physical therapy. I can live with the pain, I told myself, and I lived with it. Every morning when I got up, every step I climbed, every time I bent down in the garden, my knees reminded me that I was sacrificing my health to maintain a lie that wasn't even mine. But I didn't tell Robert anything. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want him to think that his mother was weak, complaining, or troublesome. He had enough with Tiffany and her demands, or so I told myself, to justify my silence. My friends started to notice the changes. My friend Lois, a retired teacher like me, invited me on a trip to Key West with a group of former teachers. It was affordable, only $1,200 for 4 days, all-inclusive. We had been talking about that trip for years. I can't, Lois, I told her without looking me in the eyes. Why not? You have your pension, you don't have big expenses. It's just, I'm saving up for some house repairs. Rebecca, your house always needs repairs, and you never do them. You've been saying the same thing for years. What's going on? I shrugged. You know how it is. Money doesn't stretch. Lois looked at me with those eyes that see more than one wants to show. Rebecca Miller, I've known you for 30 years. Something is going on and you're not telling me. I changed the subject. But that night, alone in my house, I sat under the wisteria with a cup of coffee and allowed myself to think about the truth. I was living like a pauper, so my son could live like a rich man, and he wasn't even grateful for it. Robert's visits had been reduced to once every 2 months at most. Always in a hurry, always with his phone in his hand, always with Tiffany calling him for some urgency that wasn't an urgency. One afternoon, he came alone. It was unusual for him to come without her. He sat with me on the patio, and I noticed a worried look on his face. "Everything all right, son?" I asked. "Yes, Mom, everything's fine. It is just that, well, Tiffany and I are thinking of buying a new car." My heart sank. I already knew what was coming. The one we have is old now. Tiffany wants an SUV, something safer. We're looking at an Acura MDX. An Acura that cost more than $50,000? That sounds expensive, I said, choosing my words carefully. It is, but we can afford it. I'm earning well. I felt something bitter in my throat. Earning well? Yes, Mom, I just got a raise. It won't be necessary for you to help me with the rent anymore. Starting next month, I can handle everything. For a moment, my heart filled with hope. 6 years. 6 years had passed. It was finally going to end. Really, son? Well, he looked down. Actually, I wanted to ask you one more favor. I know it's a lot, but I need you to help me with the down payment for the SUV. It's $10,000. I can raise 6, but I'm 4 short. Do you think you could lend it to me? I promise I'll pay you back in 6 months, and after that, I won't need anything else. The world stopped. $4,000? I didn't have $4,000. I had spent all my savings on the monthly payments. What little I had left was barely enough for 3 months of emergency funds. Robert, I don't have that amount. Mom, please, it's important. Tiffany already told her family we're buying the SUV. If I say I can't now, they'll think I'm a failure.
There it was again. The image, the lie, the need to keep up appearances for Tiffany's family. Son, seriously, I don't have that money. You have your savings account, the one Dad left you. I froze. That account was sacred. It was the last thing I had left from my husband. It was $20,000 that he had left for my old age, for a real emergency, for my dignity. That account is off limits, Robert. Your father left it for... Mom, I'm his son. Don't you think he would want you to use that money to help me? Besides, I told you I'll give it back. It's not forever. His voice sounded annoyed now, as if I were the bad guy, as if my refusal were an act of selfishness. Give me a few days to think about it, I told him, feeling short of breath. Robert stood up, clearly frustrated. Okay, but don't take too long. The offer on the SUV expires in 2 weeks. He left without finishing his coffee, without hugging me, without the affectionate words that had never been missing before. I didn't sleep that night. I tossed and turned in my bed, thinking about everything. About the 6 years of payments, about the broken promises, about my canceled physical therapy, about the Key West trip I never took, about my house that was falling apart while I was paying for an apartment in Chelsea. I thought about my husband, about what he would say if he knew what was happening. Would he have asked me to protect our son at any cost, or would he have asked me to protect myself? On the 3rd day, Robert called again. Have you thought about it, Mom? Robert, I really can't. That account is for my old age. I'm 59 now. I need that money for when I can no longer work. For medicine, for... Oh, Mom, always so dramatic. You're not going to die tomorrow. Besides, when you're old, I'm going to take care of you. Don't worry when I'm old, as if 59 weren't enough, as if the pain in my knees were imaginary, as if my exhaustion didn't exist. It's not about drama, son. It's about reality. You know what, Mom? Forget it. Don't worry. I'll find a way myself. I always end up doing everything myself. And he hung up. I was left with the phone in my hand, trembling, not from cold, but from rage. Rage at him for manipulating me. Rage at myself for allowing it. But the worst came later. 2 weeks later, Tiffany posted a photo on her social media. It was her smiling, posing in front of a new Acura MDX, white, gleaming. The caption read, "Blessed by this gift from my hard-working husband. Thank you, my love, for always keeping your promises." #blessed life, couple goals, Acura MDX. They had bought the SUV without my help, without my $4,000, without touching my husband's sacred account, which meant only one thing. Robert never needed that money. He just wanted to see how far I was willing to go. He wanted to measure my love, test my loyalty, squeeze the last drop out of my sacrifice, and when I said no, he simply found another way. That night, under the wisteria, I made a decision.
I wasn't going to take out the $4,000. I wasn't going to touch my husband's account. But I wasn't going to stop paying the monthly rent either. Why? Because I was still afraid. Afraid of losing him completely. Afraid he would stop talking to me. Afraid of being a mother who abandons her son. So I kept going, month after month, transfer after transfer. But something inside me had died. And although I didn't know it then, that silent death was the beginning of my resurrection. While I'm telling all this, I wonder where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. The 5th year was the year of the signs. Those signs that you see but prefer not to interpret. Those truths that are there in front of your eyes, but which your heart refuses to accept. Because accepting them would mean admitting that everything you believed was a lie. I kept paying the rent every month, $1,000 promptly on the 1st of every month. By then, I had completely emptied my personal savings account. I no longer had a financial cushion. I was living paycheck to paycheck, adjusting every dollar, buying the cheapest things, denying myself everything. My knees worsened so much that I had to start using a cane to walk long distances. Lois insisted that I go to the doctor. "Rebecca, you need to get this checked. This isn't normal." I'm fine, it's just my age. You're 59, not 90. Please go to the doctor. I went. The diagnosis was advanced degenerative arthritis. The doctor prescribed a treatment that cost $300 monthly. I looked at the prescription and put it in my purse without saying anything. Are you going to fill the prescriptions? The doctor asked. Yes, doctor. Thank you. A lie. I wasn't going to fill them. I didn't have $300 extra. That $300 was the difference between eating well or eating poorly, between paying my electricity or being in the dark. I left the clinic limping with my cane, with my unfilled prescription, feeling that my body was collecting the price of my sacrifice. That afternoon, Robert called me. It was unusual. I hadn't heard from him in weeks. Mom, how are you? Fine, son. And you? Very well. Hey, did you get my text? What text? I sent you a text 3 days ago asking you to deposit the money a few days early this month, the 30th instead of the 1st. Didn't you see it? I hadn't seen it. I checked my phone. There it was, a short message. Ma, deposit on the 30th, please. Have to pay something urgent. I didn't see it, son. I'm sorry. Can you do it today? It's urgent. Robert, today is the 30th. The banks are already closed. I can do it first thing tomorrow morning. Mom, I need that money today. Can't you do an online transfer? His tone was impatient, annoyed, as if I were an incompetent employee and not his mother. Son, I don't know how to do those things online. I always go to the bank. I heard a sigh of frustration. Fine, forget it. I'll have to borrow from a friend. But please, tomorrow without fail. He hung up without saying goodbye. I was left looking at the phone, feeling something new. Not pain, but a small spark of anger. Is this how he talked to me now? Is this how he treated me after 6 years of silent help? The next day, I went to the bank early. While I waited for my turn, I overheard a conversation between two ladies. My son borrowed money for his business and never paid me back, one was saying. Oh, honey, sons take advantage. My daughter got money from me for her wedding and now she barely speaks to me, the other replied. I froze. Is this how they saw us? As mothers taken advantage of by their own children? No, my case was different. I was helping Robert because he needed it. It was temporary. He had promised me. Or had he? I made the transfer. $1,000, as always. But this time, something inside me began to wake up. A small voice that said, "This is not right." I ignored it. 2 weeks later, my friend Lois invited me out for lunch. We went to a small diner near my house. She ordered the turkey chili, and I ordered a chicken noodle soup, which was cheaper. Why do you always order the cheapest thing? Lois asked me. I'm not hungry for chili. Rebecca, please, not with me. I know you. What's going on with your money? And there, in that simple diner, with the noise of the dishes and conversations all around, something in me broke. Tears began to fall without permission. Lois, I can't do this anymore. She took my hand. Tell me. And I told her, not everything, but part of it. I told her I was helping Robert with expenses, that it was temporary, that it would end soon. How long have you been helping him? 5 years. 5 years. And when is he going to stop needing your help? Soon. He promised me. Lois looked at me with a mixture of tenderness and sadness that I will never forget. Rebecca, my dear, that's not helping, that's supporting him. And the worst part is, you're destroying your life to maintain his. Does he know you're canceling your medication to give him money? No. Have you told him? I don't want to worry him. Worry him? Rebecca, you're the one walking with a cane. You're the one sacrificing yourself, and you're worried about worrying him? Her words hit me like buckets of cold water, but I still defended my son. You don't understand, Lois. Tiffany comes from a family with money. Robert has to maintain a certain level, otherwise she'll look down on him. What if she already looks down on him? What if she already knows he can't maintain that level, and that's why she's bleeding you dry? Don't say that, Lois. Rebecca, open your eyes. A son who loves his mother doesn't leave her without medicine. He doesn't make her live like a pauper while he lives like a rich man. He doesn't know I'm like this. And why don't you tell him? I had no answer. I couldn't sleep that night. Lois's words spun in my head. I decided to do something I had never done: investigate. The next day, I searched online for the building where Robert lived. It was a residential complex in North Chelsea, elegant, modern, with a gym and a rooftop garden. I looked up how much the apartments cost there. Rents ranged from $2,500 to $4,000, depending on the size. My heart started beating faster. Robert had told me the rent was $3,000, that he paid $2,000 and I paid $1,000. But what if that was a lie? What if the rent was $2,500 and he was charging me $1,000 to keep the rest? Or worse, what if the rent was cheaper and he was using my money for other things? No, it couldn't be. My son wouldn't lie to me like that. Or would he? I decided to do something else, something that shamed me, but that I had to do. I texted Robert. Son, what a coincidence. My friend Susan is looking for an apartment in Chelsea. Do you know how much the rent is in your building? Just to give her a reference. The answer came 3 hours later. 3,000 or 3,500. It varies a lot depending on the floor and the view. 3,000 or 3,500. Vague, imprecise, evasive. And how much do you pay exactly? I insisted. 2 days passed without a reply. Finally, Mom, I don't remember exactly. Tiffany handles those things. Why? Just curious. There were no more messages. That night, sitting under the wisteria that was now losing flowers for the autumn, I understood something terrible. My son was lying to me. I didn't know exactly what about, but I knew there were lies. Layers and layers of lies that I had chosen not to see. A week later, something happened that confirmed my suspicions. I was walking downtown near the Rockefeller Center when I saw Robert. He was on the terrace of an expensive restaurant, one of those places where breakfast costs what I spent on food for an entire week. He was with Tiffany and another couple. They were laughing, drinking mimosas. The table was full of food. I was paralyzed on the street, looking up, hidden among the crowd. Robert looked happy, relaxed, rich. And I was down there with my cane, in my old clothes, with my knees killing me with pain, with my empty bank account. He didn't see me. I didn't look down from that terrace until they asked for the check. I saw Robert pull out a golden credit card and pay without blinking. Then they got up, all elegant, and walked off towards Fifth Avenue, laughing and hugging. I went back to my house by bus, gripping my cane, feeling like something very big was about to explode inside me. That night, I checked my bank statements for the last 5 years. I took out an old calculator and started adding $1,000 per month, 12 months a year. 5 full years, $60,000. I had given $60,000 to my son. $60,000 that came out of my pension, my savings, my future, my health, my dignity. And he was in expensive restaurants drinking mimosas. I put my head on the table and cried. I cried for everything I had lost, for everything I had denied myself, for the fool I had been, for the blind mother I was. But between those tears, something else emerged, something I had never felt towards my son: rage. I still wonder if I did the right thing. And you? What would you have done in my place? Rage is a strange feeling when you've never felt it towards the person you love most. It's like having fire in your chest and not being able to breathe. It's knowing the truth but not wanting to accept it. It's waking up in the middle of the night with a racing heart, remembering every lie, every broken promise, every moment you chose to believe instead of seeing. After calculating the $60,000, I couldn't sleep for 3 days. I spent the time tossing and turning in bed thinking about everything I could have done with that money. I could have had surgery on my knees. I could have traveled to all the places I dreamed of. I could have remodeled my house. I could have lived with dignity. Instead, I paid for my son's lie. Because now I knew it for sure. It was a lie. Not just a small lie, a giant lie, sustained for 5 years, which had cost me my health, my peace of mind, my future. But I still didn't know the whole truth, and something inside me needed to know it completely before acting. One morning, I made a decision. I was going to really investigate how much the rent for that apartment was. I wasn't going to ask Robert. I was going to find out myself. I put on my best clothes, put on a little makeup, and took a taxi to the Chelsea building. Yes, a taxi. It was an expense I normally didn't allow myself, but this was important. I needed answers. I arrived at the building. It was more elegant than I imagined. There was a doorman at the entrance, a lobby with tropical plants, polished marble floors. I felt small, out of place. Poor. "Good morning," I said to the doorman, with my best smile. "I'm interested in renting an apartment here. Are there any available?" The doorman, a man about 50 years old, looked at me kindly. "You'd have to talk to the management, ma'am, but I think there are a couple available. Would you like me to give you the contact?" "First of all, I'd like to know more or less how much the rents are here to see if it's within my budget." "Of course. Look, the one-bedroom apartments are around $1,800. The two-bedroom ones are about $2,200. And the three-bedroom ones, or those with a terrace, those are more expensive, like $2,800 or $3,000. My heart stopped beating for a second. $2,200. The two-bedroom apartments cost $2,200. "And what does that price include?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "It includes the building maintenance, water, gas. You only pay electricity separately." "I see. And most of the tenants rent 2 bedrooms?" "Yes, ma'am. It's the most common. The 3-bedroom ones, or those with a terrace, are more for large families or people who want more space." I thanked him and left there with my legs shaking. I had to sit on a street bench because I felt like I was going to faint. $2,200, not $3,000. $2,200. Robert had told me the rent was $3,000, that he paid $2,000 and I paid $1,000. But if the real rent was $2,200, that meant that he was paying $1,200 and I was paying $1,000. Or worse, that he was using my money for other things and paying the entire rent with his salary. No, there had to be an explanation. Maybe they had one of the expensive apartments with a terrace. Maybe that's why it cost $3,000. But if that were the case, why had Robert been so evasive when I asked him? Why didn't he just tell me, "Mom, we pay more because it has a terrace"? Because he was lying. Because he had been lying to me all this time. I went back to my house by bus, feeling sick. When I arrived, I threw up, not because of something I ate, but because of the nausea of betrayal. That afternoon, I did something else. Something that shamed me, but that I had to do. I looked up Tiffany's social media. She was one of those people who posted everything, every meal, every outing, every moment of her perfect life. And there it all was. The evidence of my sacrifice turned into their luxury. Photos at expensive restaurants, date night with my love, photos of new clothes, retail therapy, Nordstrom, Saks Fifth Avenue, Coach. Photos of trips, Miami, Los Angeles, Aspen. We needed this break. Blessed life. Photos of the Acura SUV. Thank you, my love, for always fulfilling your promises to me. Each photo was a stab. Each caption was a mockery. While I was eating rice and beans to save money, they were eating lobster. While I canceled my physical therapy, they were going on vacation. While I wore the same clothes I'd had for years, she was buying designer bags, and all with my money. With the money that I, a retired teacher of 59 with arthritis, was giving them every month for 5 years. I kept checking. There was a photo from 2 years ago of them at a restaurant. The comments said things like, "What a lovely couple," Goals. You can tell Robert is a successful man. A successful man? Successful with his mother's money. But what hurt the most was a recent photo. It was Tiffany with her mother and sisters. The caption read, "Thank God for blessing me with a family where I have never lacked for anything. I grew up surrounded by love and abundance. And now my husband gives me the same life. Sacred, blessed, family is everything. Abundance, abundance, love, family, and me." Where was I in that equation? I who had given them $60,000? I who had sacrificed my health? I who was the reason they could live in that apartment? I didn't exist in their narrative. I was invisible. I closed my phone and cried until I ran out of tears. That night, Robert called me as if nothing were wrong, as if it were a normal call. "Mom? How are you?" "Fine," I lied. "Hey, just to remind you that tomorrow is the 1st, the deposit." "Okay." As if it were a transaction, as if I were a bank, not a, "How are your knees, Mom?" Not a, "Do you need anything?" Just the reminder for the deposit. "Robert," I said, and my voice sounded different, firmer. "I need to talk to you." "I can't right now, Mom. Tiffany and I are going out. Can it be another day?" "It's important." "Mom, seriously, I'm in a hurry. We'll talk about it next week, okay? Don't forget the deposit. Love you. Bye." And he hung up. I was left with the phone in my hand, trembling with rage. He no longer even asked how I was. He no longer even pretended to be interested. I was just a source of money, an ATM, a monthly obligation. The next day, I didn't go to the bank. It was the 1st of the month, and for the first time in 5 years, I didn't make the deposit. My phone rang at 2 in the afternoon. It was Robert. "Mom, did you make the deposit? It hasn't arrived." "I haven't gone to the bank." "Why not? It's the 1st. "Because we need to talk first." "Mom, don't start. What's wrong?" "I want you to come to my house today. I need to talk to you in person." "I can't today, Mom. Tiffany and I have a dinner." "Robert." I interrupted him, and my voice sounded like it never had before. Hard, firm, unyielding. "You come today, or there's no deposit. You decide." There was a long silence. I could feel his surprise through the phone. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm telling you I need to talk to you. Is it a threat to want to see my son?" Another silence. "Fine, I'll come tonight around 8. I'll be waiting for you." I hung up and started to tremble. Not from fear, but from something I had never felt. Power. For the first time in 5 years, I was in control. The hours passed slowly. I prepared myself. I took out all my bank statements. I took out a notebook where I had noted every payment. I took out the calculator. I made coffee, although I knew this conversation was going to be bitter. At 8:30, Robert arrived. Late, as always. He walked in with an annoyed look, as if coming to see his mother was a sacrifice. "I'm here. What's so urgent?" I didn't invite him to sit down. I stayed standing with my cane in one hand and my papers in the other. "How much is the rent for your apartment?" I asked directly. He went pale. "What?" "How much it costs. It's a simple question." "I already told you, $3,000. "That's a lie." "What do you mean, a lie? Are you going to tell me how much I pay now?" I went to the building. I spoke with the doorman. The 2-bedroom apartments cost $2,200. The silence that followed was deafening. Robert opened his mouth. He closed it. He opened it again. "Mom, that's the base price. We pay more because our apartment has a terrace." "And you have a terrace? You never told me. You never invited me to see your apartment. In 5 years, I've never set foot in that place that I am helping to pay for. Because Tiffany doesn't. It's just that she. What? Is she ashamed of me? Is she embarrassed for her poor mother-in-law to visit her fancy apartment?" "It's not that." "Then what is it? Explain it to me, Robert. Explain to me why I have been giving you $1,000 a month for 5 years, $60,000 in total, and you treat me like a stranger." $60,000. As if you were counting it. Of course I counted it. It's my money. It's my pension. It's my future. Do you know what I could have done with $60,000? Do you have any idea? Robert ran his hand through his hair, nervous. Mom, I always thought you had plenty. You never told me you were in a bad financial situation. I had plenty? Does it look like I have plenty? Look at my house. Look how I live. Look at my cane. Do you know why I use a cane? Because I have arthritis and I can't afford the treatment. Do you know why I can't afford it? Because I'm giving you $1,000 a month. I didn't know that. Why don't you ask? Why don't you care? The only thing you care about is that the money arrives on time every first. Robert slumped into a chair. For the first time, I saw him speechless. You said it would only be 1 year. I continued, and my voice broke. 1 year, Robert. 5 years ago. And here I am, still paying for your lie. Because that's what I'm paying for, isn't it? Not a rent payment. Your lie. Your image, your need to keep up appearances for Tiffany and her family. Mom, I do plan to pay you back. When? When, Robert? When you buy another SUV? When you go on vacation again? When Tiffany buys another designer bag? I saw her social media. I saw everything. I saw how you live. Expensive restaurants, designer clothes, trips. And I'm here eating rice and beans, wearing old clothes, unable to pay for my medicine. The tears started to fall. But this time, they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage, of liberation, of truth finally spoken. Mom, I do. You know what hurts me the most? It's not the money. It's that you made me invisible. You turned me into an ATM. You stopped seeing me as your mother. I'm no longer Rebecca, the woman who raised you alone, who worked double shifts to pay for your college, who loved you more than her own life. Now I'm just a monthly obligation. Robert covered his face with his hands. I don't know if he was crying or just trying to escape my gaze. I'm sorry, he finally said, his voice broken. I'm sorry, Mom. You're right. I took advantage of you. I let this get out of control. But I really intended to pay you back everything. I really did. With what money, Robert, if you live beyond your means? If every dollar you earn is spent on maintaining an image that isn't real? I'm going to change. I promise. How many more promises are you going to break? He stood up. He came closer to me. He tried to hug me. I took a step back. No, I said firmly. Don't touch me. Not until things really change. What do you want me to do? I want you to stop lying. I want you to talk to Tiffany and tell her the truth. All of it. That I have been paying part of her rent for 5 years. That you don't earn what you led her to believe. That her perfect life is built on the sacrifice of your mother. Mom, I can't do that. What is she going to leave you? And if she leaves you because of that, what kind of woman is she? What kind of marriage do you have? Robert didn't answer. And in that silence, I understood everything. I understood that my son preferred to keep lying than to risk losing Tiffany. I understood that for him, his image was more important than my well-being. I understood that the son I thought I knew no longer existed, or perhaps never existed. Go, I told him softly. Mom, go, Robert. I need to be alone. He left without looking back. The door closed and I stood in my living room, surrounded by my papers, my accounts, my evidence of 5 years of unrequited love. I sat down under the wisteria. Even though it was night and cold, the plant was almost without flowers now. Winter was approaching and I felt the same inside. A long, cold, painful winter. But I also felt something else, something small but real. I felt that I had finally spoken the truth, that I had finally defended myself, that I had finally stopped being invisible, and that in the midst of all the pain was a start. The days after that conversation were the most silent of my life. Robert didn't call me. I didn't call him either. The first of the month passed and I didn't make the deposit. The second passed, the third, the fourth. My phone remained silent. It was strange. For 5 years, I had lived with the pressure of that monthly commitment. And now that I hadn't fulfilled it, I expected to feel guilty. But I didn't feel guilty. I felt something akin to peace. A bitter peace, but peace nonetheless. Lois came to visit me on the 5th day. "What happened? You look different," she said as soon as she walked in. I talked to Robert, and I told him the truth. Everything. Lois hugged me tight. "Oh, Rebecca, how do you feel?" "I don't know. Empty, liberated, sad, all at once." We sat down for coffee. I told her every detail of the conversation. When she finished, Lois had tears in her eyes. "You did the right thing," she told me. "Even if it hurts, you did the right thing." On day 7, my phone rang. It was a text from Robert. "Mom, we need to talk. Can I come tomorrow?" I replied, "Yes." The next day, he arrived alone. He looked tired, haggard. We sat in the living room. Neither of us knew how to start. I talked to Tiffany. He finally said. My heart jumped. "You told her?" "Yes, I told her everything. That you've been helping me with the rent, that I've been lying to her about my income for 5 years. And what did she say?" Robert looked down. "She got very angry. She's disappointed. She says I lied to her, that I made her look ridiculous in front of her family. And about me. What did she say about me? She says, why didn't you tell her sooner? That you should have included her in the conversation from the beginning." I felt my blood boil. Why didn't I tell her? You asked me to keep it a secret. You begged me not to tell her. I know, Mom, I know. I explained that to her, but she's very angry. With whom? With you or with me? With both of us? Of course, I was the one to blame too, because that's how it works, right? The mother is always guilty of something. "And now what?" I asked. "Tiffany says she needs time to think. She's considering going to her parents' house for a while. Leaving. She says she can't trust me, that if I lied about this, she doesn't know what else I've lied about." There was pain in his voice, real pain, and for a moment I felt sorry for him, but only for a moment. "Robert, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe it's time for you to build your marriage on truth and not on lies." A good thing? A good thing that my wife wants to leave me? A good thing that there is finally honesty? You don't understand. I love her. I can't lose her. And me? Could you lose me? For 5 years you lost me little by little. You stopped visiting me. You stopped asking how I was. You turned me into a monthly obligation. You lost me a long time ago, Robert. You just didn't realize it. Mom, I never meant to. But you did. And now you're paying the consequences. Robert stood up. He walked towards the window. "So what? You're not going to help me anymore?" "No. Not even a few more months while I sort things out? No, Robert, it's over. And how am I going to pay the rent?" "Find a cheaper place. Get a second job. Sell the SUV. Do what all responsible adults do. Live within your means."
That's easy for you to say. And it's easy to do, too. I did it for years. I raised a son alone on a teacher's salary. I lived within my means, without luxuries, without putting on airs, with dignity. It's not the same. You're right. It's not the same because you have more resources than I did. You have education, a stable job, youth. I only had willpower and love. And still, we made it work. Robert was silent for a long time. Then he looked at me with a mixture of rage and pain. "You know what, Mom? Maybe you were right. Maybe I did take advantage of you. But you also have your share of the blame." "Me?" "Yes, you never said no. You never set limits. You always said yes to everything. You got me used to you always being there, giving, sacrificing. And now you want me to change overnight?" His words hurt because they contained some truth. I had allowed everything. I had said yes when I should have said no.
You're right, I admitted. I allowed you to treat me this way. I taught you that my love had no limits or conditions, and that was my mistake. But mistakes can be corrected, and I am correcting mine now by cutting me off. No, by letting you grow, by letting you be a responsible man who faces his own decisions. Robert shook his head. You're unbelievable, Mom. Now it turns out that abandoning me is for my own good. I'm not abandoning you. I'm letting go. There's a difference. He walked towards the door. Before leaving, he turned around. I hope you're happy. Because of you, my marriage is falling apart. No, Robert, it's falling apart because of the lies, because of the lack of foundation. I only uncovered what was already rotten. He left, slamming the door. I was left alone in my living room, trembling. The words, because of you, echoed in my head. Was it my fault? Was I the villain in this story? No, I wasn't. I knew it, but it still hurt. The days turned into weeks. I didn't hear anything from Robert. I didn't look for him either. For the first time in my life, I respected his silence as much as he had ignored my needs. I used my money, that money that used to leave every month, to fill my prescriptions. The pain in my knees started to get better. I could walk a little better. I slept better too. One afternoon, I was watering the wisteria when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Mrs. Miller? It was a woman's voice I didn't recognize. Yes, who is this? This is Mary, Tiffany's sister-in-law. My blood ran cold. Why was my son's sister-in-law calling me? Did something happen? No, don't worry. I just wanted to talk to you. Can we meet? I agreed to meet with Mary. I didn't know what to expect, but something inside me told me I needed to hear what she had to say. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop near my house. When I arrived, she was already there. She was similar to Tiffany, elegant, well-dressed, with that air of confidence that money gives. But in her eyes, there was something different, something more human. Mrs. Miller, thank you for coming, she said, standing up. We sat down, ordered coffee. The silence was awkward. I don't know how to start this, she finally said. Tiffany doesn't know I'm here. If she finds out, she's going to be very angry with me. Then why did you come? Because I need to tell you something I think you deserve to know. I braced myself for the worst. Tiffany told me everything, about the rent, about the money you gave them, everything. And I was in shock, not because Robert needed help, but because Tiffany acted like she didn't know anything. My heart started beating faster. What do you mean? Mary took a breath before continuing. Mrs. Miller, Tiffany did know. Maybe not from the very beginning, but for about 3 years now. She did know that you were helping with the rent. The world stopped. How do you know? Because she told me. About 2 years ago, at a family dinner, she was complaining that Robert didn't earn as much as she thought, and when I asked her how they managed with the expensive apartment, she told me as if it were nothing. Oh, his mom helps us out with part of it. $1,000 a month. It's the least she can do after everything Robert does for her. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. The least I can do? Yes, that's what she said, as if it were your obligation, as if you owed them something. My hands were trembling. And why are you telling me this now? Because when everything blew up, Tiffany acted in front of my family as if she had been betrayed,
as if Robert had hidden something terrible from her. And yes, he lied to her at first, but she had known for years. She played the victim to look good in front of my parents. And what did your parents say? They're furious with Robert. They say he's a freeloader, that he cheated on Tiffany, that he's not good enough for her. My dad even offered Tiffany money to get a divorce. I felt dizzy. Everything was worse than I imagined. Mrs. Miller, Mary continued, I don't agree with how Robert handled this all. Lying is wrong, but Tiffany isn't innocent either. She knew, and she didn't say anything. She enjoyed your money and never had the decency to get to know you better, to thank you, to include you in her life. And that's not right. Why are you telling me all this? Because you're an older woman, because it makes me angry to see how they treated you, and because someone has to tell you the truth. It's not all Robert's fault. My sister played her part too. I was silent for a long time, processing, feeling how every piece of the puzzle fit into place. Thank you for telling me, I finally managed to say. What are you going to do? I don't know, but at least now I know the whole truth.
Mary left. I stayed in that coffee shop for another hour, looking at my empty coffee cup, feeling that everything I thought I knew about the last few years was a complete lie. Tiffany knew. She knew and didn't say anything. She knew and treated me with contempt. She knew and never thanked me. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m, I made a decision. I opened my old computer and wrote a letter. I wasn't going to send it by text or by phone. It was a formal letter written with all my heart. Robert, 32 years ago, I brought you into this world. I raised you alone after your father died. I gave you everything I could: education, love, values. I thought that was enough to form a good man. I was wrong. Not because you are bad, but because I protected you too much. I taught you that a mother's love has no limits, and you learned that you could take without giving. I taught you that sacrifice is noble, and you learned that my sacrifice was your right. For 5 years, I gave you $60,000. I don't regret the money. I regret allowing you to make me invisible. I regret keeping your secret while you built a life of lies. Today, I know that Tiffany knew. I know that she knew for years that I was paying for part of her life, and yet she treated me as if I were a nuisance, and you allowed it. I am not writing to you to complain. I am writing to say goodbye. Not goodbye forever, but goodbye to the relationship we had. That relationship where I gave and you took, where I nullified myself and you flourished, or my pain was invisible to you. If one day you want to get to know your mother, not your source of money, but Rebecca, the woman I am, my door will be open, but I will no longer beg you to see me. I will no longer wait for scraps of your attention. I will no longer sacrifice my dignity for your comfort. I truly wish you well. I hope you find your way, that you build an honest life, that you become the man I thought you were, but you will do it without my financial help and without my complicit silence. I love you. I will always love you, but now I also love myself, your mother, Rebecca. I printed the letter, I put it in an envelope, and the next day I personally took it to his apartment. I didn't ring the doorbell, I just left it in the mailbox and left. I walked through Chelsea with my cane, feeling lighter than ever. There was a weight I no longer carried. It wasn't the weight of the money, it was the weight of the lie, the weight of pretending that everything was fine when it wasn't. The following days I dedicated to myself. I hired someone to fix the water heater in my house. I bought paint, and with Lois's help, we painted the living room. I brought fresh flowers for my table. I cooked my chili just for myself and enjoyed it. I went for a walk in the park every morning. My physical therapy was working. My knees hurt less. I could breathe better. One afternoon, 3 weeks after leaving the letter, my phone rang. It was Robert. "Mom, I read your letter. And do you really feel that way?" "Yes." There was a long silence. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. You just have to think." "Tiffany and I separated." "Do you mean it?"
Yes. I know you loved her. She says she can't be with someone who lied to her. Ironic, isn't it? Considering she knew too, you know? Yes. Mary told me she saw you, that she told you the truth. Are you angry with her? No. I'm grateful. Someone had to be honest in this whole story. And what are you going to do now? I moved to a smaller apartment, cheaper. I sold the SUV. I'm starting over. I'm glad. Mom, I'm so sorry for everything. Truly, I was a terrible son. You weren't terrible. You were lost. There's a difference. Will you ever forgive me? I already forgave you, Robert. Forgiveness is for me, not for you. So I can move forward without resentment. So, can we start over? We can, but it's going to be different. I'm no longer going to be the mother who says yes to everything. I'm going to be the mother who tells you the truth, even if it hurts. Okay, I accept that. And you're going to have to earn my trust again. Not with words, with actions. I will, I promise you. Don't promise me, just do it. We hung up, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hope. Not the blind hope of before, but a mature, conscious hope, with my eyes open. The months passed. Robert kept his word, not with grand gestures, but with small, constant actions. He started visiting me every Sunday. He would arrive with bagels from the market, the kind I liked. He didn't arrive empty-handed, expecting me to cook. He arrived and we cooked together, like when he was a child. He didn't talk about money. He didn't ask for anything. He just came to be with me. At first, I was suspicious. I expected him to ask for help again at any moment. But he didn't. And little by little, I started to believe that the change was real. He told me he was working extra hours, that he had sold many things he no longer needed, and that he was learning to live with less, and that, curiously, he felt freer. You know what's ironic, Mom? He told me one afternoon while we were having coffee under the wisteria that was blooming again. When I had the expensive apartment, the SUV, the outings to restaurants, I was always stressed, always worried about money. Now that I live simply, I sleep better. I was happy to hear it, not because I enjoyed his difficulty, but because he was finally learning. But life has strange ways of serving justice, and Tiffany was about to find that out. Lois came over one afternoon with gossip. She still followed Tiffany's social media out of pure curiosity. Rebecca, you have to see this, she said, showing me her phone. It was a post from Tiffany. It was no longer photos at expensive restaurants or #blessedlife messages. It was a photo of her alone in a cafe with a long caption. Sometimes, life teaches you that appearances aren't everything. I've learned the hard way that a life built on lies, even pretty lies, eventually collapses. I'm in a process of personal reconstruction, and I'm grateful to those who have stayed by my side during these difficult times. What happened to her? I asked. Lois kept showing me. According to what she had investigated, after separating from Robert, Tiffany had met someone else, an entrepreneur, owner of a chain of restaurants, genuinely rich, not just appearances. They had gotten engaged quickly, but 3 months later, the engagement broke off. Apparently, the entrepreneur discovered that Tiffany had lied to him about several things: her age, her education, even about having a job that she had actually lost months act. I didn't feel joy at her pain, but I did feel that there was a balance in the universe. Weeks later, Mary called me again. Mrs. Miller, I just wanted to tell you something. Tiffany is going through a very difficult time. I heard that. She's living with my parents again. She lost her job, the boyfriend she had left her, and now she says she made a mistake with Robert, that he really loved her and that she didn't appreciate it. And what does she expect? That Robert will go back to her? I don't know, but she's different, less arrogant, more humble. I think life is hitting her hard. Life doesn't hit, Mary. Life teaches. The hit is what we feel when we don't want to learn. That's true. Anyway, I just wanted you to know, and also to tell you that my family now speaks of you with respect. My mom said the other day that Mrs. Miller has more dignity than many of us. I think we all understood that you weren't the problem. Tiffany was. After that call, I was left thinking. I didn't feel revenge or satisfaction at Tiffany's suffering. I felt something deeper. Understanding. I understood that everyone reaps what they sow. Tiffany sowed lies, appearances, and contempt. Now she was reaping loneliness and disappointment. Not because I wished it on her, but because that's how life works.
Robert sowed manipulation and neglectance toward his mother and lost his marriage, his status, his comfort. He had to start from scratch. And although he was better now, the path had been painful. And I, who sowed love and sacrifice, was also reaping. Not what I expected, not eternal gratitude or the perfect son, but something more valuable. My own peace, my recovered dignity, my rebuilt self-love. One Sunday afternoon, Robert arrived with his serious face. "Mom, I need to tell you something." "Tell me." "Tiffany texted me. She wants to talk. She says she made a mistake, that she wants to try again." My heart tightened. "And what do you want?" "I don't know. Part of me still loves her, but another part of me knows it would be a mistake." "Why would it be a mistake?" "Because we were never honest. Not her with me, not me with her, nor either of us with ourselves. We built a relationship on sand, Mom, and when the storm came, it collapsed." I felt proud of his words. "And what are you going to reply to her?" That I need to keep growing on my own. That maybe in the future we can be friends, but that for now it's best for each of us to heal separately.
That seems wise to me. Wise? I don't know, but I do know it's honest. And that's a lot for me now. He was silent for a moment, looking at the wisteria full of purple flowers. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "How did you know when it was time to let go? How did you know you had to let me go?" I thought about my answer carefully. "When the love I had for you started to hurt me more than it fulfilled me. When I realized that I was destroying myself to build you up. When I understood that letting go of you was not abandoning you, but giving you the chance to learn to fly on your own. And what if I hadn't learned? What if I had crashed? Then you would have gotten back up, right? But that was no longer my responsibility. My responsibility was to you when you were a child. But you were a man now, and men learn from their own faults, not from the mattresses their mothers put down so they don't get hurt." Robert nodded slowly. "I think I understand. And Tiffany, do you think she'll learn?" "I don't know. I hope so. I don't wish her ill, really, but I can't be the one to save her either. She has to save herself." "Exactly." 2 months later, I found out from Mary that Tiffany had gotten a new job. Nothing glamorous, a simple position in an office. She had left social media. She had cut her hair. She was in therapy. "She looks different," Mary told me. "More real, less perfect, but more human." "I'm happy for her," I said. And I meant it. Because that's what karma is. It's not revenge. It's not divine punishment. It's simply life putting you face to face with the consequences of your decisions. And when you accept those consequences and learn from them, you begin to heal. Tiffany has found stability in her job. She's still in therapy. She met someone. But now she's taking it slow, without rushing, without lies. She says, "You were right," Mary told me the last time we talked, that a life built on appearances always collapses, and that she had to collapse to rebuild herself properly. I don't feel resentment towards her. On the contrary, I wish her well, because I understood something important. She was also a lost person, trying to fill voids with material things and external approval, just like Robert, just like me in my own way. We were all lost, and the pain was the map that led us back home. Lois and I finally took our retired teacher's trip. We went to Boston with 3 other friends. We laughed, we walked, we ate, we reminisced. And for the first time in years, I didn't worry about money. Because I had money. Because I no longer gave it away. Because I learned that taking care of myself was not selfishness, it was survival. "You look different," Lois told me one night while we were having dinner at a restaurant with the view of the city. "Radiant. Happy." "I feel different," I replied. "I feel whole." "Whole?" "Yes. For years, I felt like a half. The half that gave, the half that served, the half that existed for others. Now I am whole.
I give when I want to give. I help when I can help. But I no longer nullify myself. I no longer disappear. Lois raised her glass to Rebecca, the woman who learned to fly. We toasted, and I felt that those words were true. This morning, I was watering my wisteria when a letter arrived. It was from an address I didn't recognize. I opened it curiously. Dear Ms. Miller, I don't know if you remember who I am. I am Tiffany, Robert's ex-wife. I'm writing this letter because my therapist told me that part of my healing is making peace with my past, and you are part of that past that I treated badly. I never thanked you. For years, you paid for part of the life I enjoyed, and I, instead of thanking you, treated you with contempt. I made you invisible. I excluded you. And when everything exploded, I blamed you. I have no excuse. I only have shame and regret. I know the money cannot be returned. I know lost time doesn't come back. But I want you to know that I am deeply sorry, and that you were right about everything. A life built on lies doesn't last. And I learned that the hard way. Today, I am rebuilding myself, trying to be a better person, an honest person, a grateful person. And although I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, I ask for it anyway. Thank you for everything you gave, and forgive me for not appreciating it. With respect and regret, Tiffany. I read the letter twice. Then I put it in a drawer along with the letter I had written to Robert 2 years ago. I didn't reply, not because I didn't forgive her, but because I had already forgiven her a long time ago, and because I understood that her letter wasn't for me. It was for her. It was her process, her healing, her path. Mine was already walked. Yesterday, Sunday, after lunch, Robert and Sarah stayed a little longer. We were sitting under the wisteria having coffee when Robert said to me, "Mom, Sarah and I have something to tell you." My heart raced from the way they looked at each other. I knew what was coming. "We're going to be parents," Sarah said with a huge smile. I was speechless. The tears came by themselves. I got up and hugged them both. "I'm going to be a grandmother," I said through tears. "I'm going to be a grandmother." "And we want to ask you something," Robert continued. "We want you to be part of our son or daughter's life, not from a distance, but up close. We want them to know you, for you to tell them stories, for you to teach them what you taught us. But this time, without sacrificing yourself, this time enjoying it. And if you ever need anything," Sarah added, "promise me you'll tell us, because you're family too, and in this family, no one is left alone or silent."
I nodded, unable to speak. I could only cry and smile at the same time. That night after they left, I stayed for a while under the wisteria, looking at the stars, feeling the cool air, listening to the silence of my house, which was no longer a silence of loneliness, but of peace. I thought about the entire journey, the pain, the tears, the $60,000 lost, the knees that still hurt, the years that won't return. And I asked myself, was it worth it? The answer came to me clear as water. Yes. Not because of the money, not because of the sacrifice, but because of the lesson. I learned that true love is not measured in dollars, in sacrifices. It is measured in respect, in honesty, in reciprocity. I learned that being a good mother does not mean saying yes to everything. It means teaching with limits, with truth, with dignity. I learned that sometimes you have to lose to win. You have to let go to receive. You have to break to rebuild. And I learned that it is never too late to start over. At 59, at 61, at 80, as long as there is life, there is an opportunity to change. If my story reached your ears, if you listened to it all, I want you to know something. You are not alone. If you feel invisible, if you are giving until you have nothing left, if someone makes you believe that your only value is what you can give them, listen to me closely. You have permission to say no. You have permission to set boundaries. You have permission to take care of yourself first. You are not selfish. You are human, and you deserve respect, love, and dignity. no matter who it is, your son, your daughter, your partner, your family. No one, absolutely no one, has the right to make you invisible because you matter. Your pain matters, your happiness matters, your life matters. And if I could find my voice at 59 after years of silence, you can too. Start today. Start now. Say no when you want to say no. Say yes only when it is true. And never, ever again make yourself small so that others can feel big. Life is short, and you deserve to live it whole. Thank you for listening to me until the end. Thank you for giving me this space to tell my truth. Every day, a woman finds the courage to change her story. Today, it was you, I listening to mine. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs it. Sometimes a story like this can change a whole day or a whole life. May God bless you. May you find your voice. May you recover your dignity. And may you never, ever again allow yourself to be made invisible. Until next time, with love and hope. Rebecca Miller, 61 years, retired teacher, healed mother, whole woman.